My name is Roxanne Gay and you're in my kitchen in Los Angeles, California. Today I'm going to be baking a milk and cookies cake. This is based on the recipe, the milk and cookies cake in Tessa Huff's Icing on the Cake. It's in the children's section because I found that all of the cakes in the adult section were a little too complicated. This is a cake that's a real crowd pleaser for people of any age. For this recipe, you're going to need butter, powdered sugar, vanilla, fancy molasses, salt, whole milk, chocolate chips, sour cream or yogurt, cake flour, granulated sugar, baking powder, egg whites, mascarpone, food coloring, and vegetable shortening. So the most tedious thing you ever have to do is grease your pans, but supposedly that's how you get the cake out when it's ready. And these are the most amazing things, and you can get them on that evil retailer's website. While all this is going on, I'm also preheating my very loud, obnoxious oven. So then I'm gonna cream the sugar and the butter together. It says 3/4 of a cup plus 2 something or other, but come on, who's not gonna use a cup of butter? So I cream my butter for like 8 to 10 minutes. While the butter's creaming, I am going to put together my dry ingredient, 2.5 cups of cake flour, and no, I'm never ever gonna level it. It'll be fine. Salt, a tablespoon of baking powder. The recipe also calls for 6 egg whites, which is just such a pain in the ass. This feels great, just in case you were wondering. That's good enough. So now it's really soft and fluffy, and I'm gonna add some vanilla, 2 tablespoons. And then I add the egg whites, 1 at a time-ish. So you also need 3/4 of a cup of milk and 1/4 cup of sour cream. I don't have any sour cream, so I'm just gonna use some yogurt. And this yogurt's totally expired. So now I'm gonna add the dry and wet ingredients. Half the dry ingredients, half the wet ingredients, half the dry ingredients, half the wet ingredients. All right, we're good to go. Now I'm just gonna divide the batter between the cake pans evenly-ish. It never ever is even. And like a more anal baker would weigh it out, but please, the day I weigh it out, you know I've been kidnapped. So now I'm gonna bake them for 20 to 22 minutes, but my oven is a demon oven, so we just don't know how long it's gonna take. There are 2 frostings for this cake, which awesome. And so the first is a chocolate chip cookie dough frosting. It says 3/4 of a cup of butter, but we've already been over. We're not gonna cut out a 1/4 cup of butter. 2.5 cups of powdered sugar, a little milk, some vanilla, half a teaspoon of fancy molasses. I don't know what makes it fancy. We'll just put the whole thing in there. So this is about ready. Tastes like cookie dough, oddly enough. And I think the cakes are ready. Let's see. Oh, they are! And to make sure they're done, you can just stick a fork or a sharp knife or a toothpick in the cake. And if it comes back clean, your cakes are good to go. You also need a buttercream to go on the outside. And this recipe is a buttercream with a little mascarpone in it. It makes it really beautiful and fluffy. I love it. I add vegetable shortening to the frosting, which helps for decorating and helps for hold. As Ina Garten would say, you have to use the good butter. I tend to favor Plus Gras because it's delicious. So first just mix the buttercream and the shortening, and then add the mascarpone. So once you get all that mixed up, you start with 7.5 cups of powdered sugar. You're probably gonna need to add more, but you start with this. And then also add vanilla, a lot. Some milk, I think it needs another cup. And then you just let it go for like 7 minutes, about as long as you would cream your butter. All right, that's good enough. And now I'm gonna add some food coloring, because I love the color pink. I always do pink. And it's ready. Dun, 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 dun. Now the fun part. Oh, it turned out perfectly. Some people just use a bread knife and can like eyeball it and cut neatly. That is not me. And so Wilton makes this amazing cake leveler. This isn't gonna look the greatest, but whatever. And then you put half of the cookie dough filling. And then normally I would just level this off, but it's a small enough cake that you just turn it upside down. And then you have a neat level layer. And then you do that same thing again, and you have a layer cake. Voila! Now I'm gonna put a crumb coat on the cake, which is just a thin layer all the way around. And then you stick it in the fridge for about half an hour so that when you actually frost the cake, crumbs don't get all up in the frosting, ruining hopefully your beautiful work. So now to frost a cake, you just put as much frosting as you want on it. And I just use this thing, but you can also use your offset spatula. And so I'm still working on the finesse part, and it never ever looks like all those Instagram bakers, I'll tell you what. Then just a little decoration. If you're feeling really special, the recipe calls for doing a really annoying thing, which is putting chocolate chips in the sides of the cake. When you do it with patience, which I don't have, it looks really good. So there you have it. This is a milk and cookies cake. I baked it to celebrate my brother Joel's 44th birthday. He died in July. So we're all going to cut a piece of cake for him today.